In this installment, exploring a life less ordinary. Also, USA Networks turn in a strong psychological drama with Sinner, and I revisit a bit of joyous legal nonsense in John Lithgow's Trial and Error. Welcome to the show.
He doesn't have that on video, does he? We'll find out together on video, Fuzzy.
I was despairing of even having a Friday night feature for this one. Happy as I was to encounter Pushing Daisies in my classic collection, I felt it'd be a bit tired to anchor two installments in a row with two short-lived series I enjoyed. However, the set of discs I've been cataloging lately have, with rare exceptions, been a narrow band of television series I was saving, which I recognize that's the project I'm pursuing here, but I don't want this to be the same comments on the same shows from one podcast to the next. I want to use my Friday night feature to lift something from the digital mass and explore it a little more in depth.
Friday night feature.
My search was rewarded late this past week with a recording I'd saved of Ewan McGregor and Cameron Diaz in their romantic fantasy adventure titled A Life Less Ordinary. Another one of those situations where I'd recorded a movie with every intention of going back to watch it later, but never quite got around to it, and then eventually forgot it was even there. In the late 90s, Holly Hunter and Delroy Lindo drew back the curtain on how all human relationships are conceived and plotted by teams of busy angels in heaven, of course. So busy, in fact, that their boss pulls them in, ticked off at them and all their recent failures. Breakups, cheating, divorce. You two go down there and set up two soulmates or don't bother coming back. Well, the soulmates in this case are Ewan McGregor as Robert, a schlubby would-be novelist janitor being replaced by a robot, and Cameron Diaz as Celine, the slightly pointless daughter of the CEO of a high-power firm in LA that makes the robots. Celine's just shot her most recent beau in the head, and her dad pulls her into his office to yell at her about getting her life back together, when who should show up but Robert, wielding a pistol and one of the robots. "Give me back my job," he screams, then throws the robot, which still cleans better than him. When he sees Celine there, he plans a hasty kidnapping, grabs her, and makes off with her in his crummy car, which gets all the way to the mountains before needing a fill-up. He's at loose ends at this point, but she's good at being kidnapped, having been kidnapped before, and knows how much he should ask and how he should tie her up and all that stuff. They find an abandoned house in the hillsides and move in, pretending to the crazy mountain man Loon, who is creepily watching them, that Robert's a famous singer and they're newlyweds and they just wanted some privacy. So regardless of what she thinks of Robert at this point as a human being, she's totally on board with this situation. He takes her on a date to a nearby bar where the crazy, creepy mountain man Loon is the DJ and introduces Robert as the famous singer, and he takes the stage and proceeds to belt out a fantastic karaoke performance of Beyond the Sea, which becomes a duet with Celine, which moves from the stage to a dance on the bar, which, as the alcohol takes hold, propels them into bed together, where Robert awakens having satisfied Celine sexually. The angels intervene, pretending to be bounty hunters to track Celine for her father, who wants them to kill Robert. So, element of danger. Ooh. The angels track them to the woods and negotiate for Celine's release before capturing them, and Lindo forces Robert to dig his own grave, and Celine shoots him and rescues Robert, and there's a chase sequence at a gas station at which Celine's credit card is declined, so she robs a bank. Robert gets shot, and she takes him to, I think it was her ex-boyfriend, a dentist with a head wound where she shot him, and he operates on Robert without anesthesia, and then engages in sexy times with Celine, who assures Robert, who stumbles in on them and punches the dentist, that he was just about to pass out drunk anyway. So they go back to the house in the hillsides where Celine's father has tracked them, and he's going to take his money and kill Robert and burn the house down. But Robert somehow defeats him by his willingness to sacrifice himself to save her life, but despite all the drama and danger and some really bright lights where he took a bullet for her, Celine and Robert don't end up together. Things are looking bad for the angels, who might end up trapped here. They try to move things along with the last desperate love poem, but while Celine is moved, Robert won't admit to having written it, so Celine is off once more, Robert's supervisor, played by Tony Shalhoub, points out that Robert's a moron for letting her go, so he chases after her and, ta-da, gets together with her. They open a bed and breakfast in Scotland, and the angels can go back to heaven. I never got a sense that these two were soulmates, or why there are soulmates, or what's exactly involved in anything like that. It seemed like the angels might have picked any two people in a room together for any amount of time and said, "You two be soulmates." If Robert hadn't gotten fired and gotten really drunk and confronted her dad, would they ever have gotten together in the first place? I mean, between the kidnapping and the bank robbery and the car theft and the, oh wow, all of the shootings, where were the police in this endless crime spree of a movie? I guess everyone was pretty, so I'm just happy to live in a world where two beautiful people with nothing in common and no reason to can finally get together and make it work because two angels somewhere got an ultimatum from their boss. All of that said, fun to have finally watched it, I suppose. I loved McGregor as Christian in Moulin Rouge, made just a few years later, and this movie randomly showcased his singing abilities somewhat, which who knows could have put him in the running for it in the first place. Also, I loved REM's New Adventures in Hi-Fi LP, and this film randomly included the song Leave from that release, which is the first I've heard it in a while, so that was nice too. What I've been watching. Otherwise, moving into what I've been watching, I loved Charlize Theron in Atomic Blonde, which I got to see last week. She did a great job in a very physical role. The camera loved her from every angle, tracking this agent or double agent or on both sides of the Berlin Wall, where she's sent to recover a rogue operative and encounters more than she bargains for. The Russians blow her cover instantly, so part of her mission is to discover who betrayed her, and as she traces sensitive information that could reveal the mole in MI6's European operation, she is able to help secure passage for assets helpful to their cause, while uncovering a hastily contrived attempt at misdirection to reveal the rogue agent and secure extraction. One of her most amazing co-stars is the soundtrack, brilliantly compiled and chock full of late 80s dance grooves and nostalgia, making me feel like I might personally have been selected as this movie's target audience. Together with compelling themes of personal loss and revenge and an investigation subplot that built to a climax in a single-shot, high-octane action sequence that appeared to go on for about 8 minutes, so kudos to everyone who was involved with that, the movie delivered on a lot of levels, and the payoff in a great unexpected twist at the end was quite satisfying. Well done. I've also been enjoying the USA Network's production of Sinner, which is 3 episodes into an extended miniseries and looks amazing. Jessica Biel plays Cora, a working mother whose dark past returns to haunt her. Triggered by a song a friend plays while enjoying an otherwise pleasant day at the beach, she stabs her friend's boyfriend, who, while in college, played the drums on that song, but otherwise we don't know her history with him at all. She claims there isn't any, that she doesn't know him or who he is or why she stabbed him. She pleads guilty, but police investigator Harry Ambrose isn't convinced. As of this past week, he's interviewed her outlandishly religious mother, and as of last week, when he played that song for her again, she lashed out and hit him, bruising him in the same pattern she stabbed her victim, who, others have testified, looked at her that day like he knew who she was and why she was doing it. Harry's got some darkness going on in his own psyche, but he's convinced there's more going on with her than temporary insanity. Looking forward to finding out what. Also, I finally finished the first season of Preacher on AMC, and based on that, I'd totally recommend continuing into the second season, which itself has progressed several episodes along by now that I have not yet seen. In the wake of the first season's dramatic conclusion, the preacher determines that God has disappeared from heaven, and despite the preacher's limitations on this plane of existence and physical parameters, he embarks on a quest to seek him out. Despite my suspicion that that might be like searching for Mars in my basement, I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
Diving into the classic collection.
In my classic collection, like I said, I haven't made a lot of progress, although numerically I recently passed the 300 disc mark. The current set of discs I'm cataloging are mired in the fall season of 2007, so I've been watching storylines progress slowly on Chuck, Heroes, Prison Break, Brothers and Sisters, Desperate Housewives, Bones, Reaper, Damages, Journeyman, The Simpsons, Moonlight, Bionic Woman, My Name is Earl, Blood Ties, Eureka, Dirty Sexy Money, Mad Men, Grey's Anatomy, Boston Legal, Life, and Ugly Betty. There were a few productions of Agatha Christie's Poirot series featuring David Suchet from A&E's Biography channel that are beautifully put together. I also encountered a National Geographic exploration of the Knights Templar, but I couldn't get too enthusiastic about it. Recently, a couple new shows tracked into view in my classic collection, however, and I will chat more about them in probably a future podcast. One of them I mentioned up there was a pilot episode of Pushing Daisies, Brian Fuller's fairy tale for grown-ups, which I thought was a lot more fun when I first saw it now about 10 years ago. I loved that show so much. But when I bought the DVD set for it a couple of years ago and tried re-watching it with Ralph, I found it had lost a certain amount of emotional immediacy for me. I think it's possible that stories where the characters are searching and longing for true love might resonate a little more deeply if you're longing for it yourself. One difference between the me who encountered these stories in 2007 and the me re-experiencing them now is relationship status. The show didn't become boring per se. The heartstrings are all still there. The notes are just maybe hitting my ears a little differently is all. Also, I think when you're watching something on network television that you absolutely love, you're always worried that they may cancel it, so it's possible I invested more into it emotionally so as to draw as much from it as I was able to. Returning to a canceled production, knowing the story arc as it played out on screen as a complete story, maybe it's lost some of the urgency I felt watching it the first time around. All the same, fun to revisit the adventures of Olive, Chuck, and Ned the Pie Maker in Pushing Daisies. The other I saw the first episode for just as I started putting this installment together. Christina Applegate's impossibly big, impossibly blue eyes blink open at the camera with the title question, Samantha Who? A woman suffering from retrograde amnesia and an insufferable family. I will absolutely have more to say about this as more episodes wander into view, but for right now I'll mention that I did not know who Melissa McCarthy was at the time, so seeing her appear at Samantha's bedside was a happy surprise. And I did know who Tim Russ from Star Trek Voyager was, and I loved seeing him in this mess as well. And while this particular set of DVDs may be a bit repetitive, I wanted to mention a 5-minute scrap of programming I've inadvertently time capsuled for all eternity now from the 8th season of Top Gear. In the segment I recorded, Jeremy, Richard, and James each acquired a van and had to accomplish various tasks, largely using the time to make fun of guys who drive these things. Do-it-yourself door repairs, do-it-yourself hand lettering along the side, tailgating motorists like a jerk, and whether the thing deters car thieves. Based on its position relative to the rest of the recording, my suspicion on this is that I was recording the Agatha Christie Poirot production of Evil Under the Sun, and the recording simply continued, although not from the beginning, which is itself a bit suspicious, yes? Also, it aired on BBC America and not A&E's Biography channel, so there's that as well. I'd proceed to exercise the little grey cells. As clues go, for example, there was a promo for the BBC American production of Hotel Babylon at the end of the commercials the segment was coming back from, but alas, I cannot make myself interested. Instead, what I have is some post-Poirot tomfoolery that hinted at something especially fun having been recorded on that tape once upon a time, a scrap of which remains preserved in amber to be revisited at will. Current collection. I was able to make a fair amount of progress on my current collection as well, cataloging into Season 8 of Supernatural, a few more episodes of The Magicians, and Legion, which I've decided that when I've got all of the first season cataloged, that will be my first homemade disc set. It's a small enough number of episodes of a show I absolutely want to revisit, and this experiment will be the perfect excuse. I've already demonstrated my ability to Frankendisc divided episodes of a single show. Now, to pull full episodes from multiple discs into a single set. Can he do it? I'll know soon enough. As of this past week, I had cataloged through Chapter 6 of that show, and there are 8 episodes altogether. I also encountered the first couple episodes of John Lithgow's delightfully funny Trial and Error, a mockumentary following a murder trial in East Peck, North Carolina, which the show reveals is actually north of West Peck. The show follows Lithgow as accused wife killer Larry Henderson, beginning with his 911 call, which is interrupted by call waiting, potentially from the cable guy, and Nicholas D'Agosto as Josh Siegel, his hapless, freshly minted lawyer flown in from New York to helm his first case, a murder trial in a town with its own customs and life ways that are baffling to him. I loved this show and look forward to watching it again as more episodes surface. I also encountered a few movies I saved, including Oz the Great and Powerful on Sci-Fi, R.I.P.D. on Spike, the incredible presentation of Foxcatcher on Sundance, Alice in Wonderland on Discovery Family, and Top Secret on IFC, Inception on AMC, How to Train Your Dragon on Freeform, and Coneheads on IFC, which was what was playing in the theater when I moved to take on my first professional editing job at the Courant in Bottineau, North Dakota. And then there was Mike Judge's sadly prescient Idiocracy on IFC, which I'd been looking to watch that again since, about November of 2016. It's about a guy who is the most average possible guy in every possible way, frozen in a secret military cryogenics experiment that leaves him suspended animation until the far more distant future than we needed to set this thing, when natural selection stopped working for a few centuries to the point where people forgot how farming works. I enjoyed it the first time I saw it when it came out during the George W. Bush administration, and I watched it a little more carefully when I encountered it again here. Fun, scary film that really should have been more of a cautionary tale for us, but oh well. Beyond that, it's late now, so I'd better get this one in the feed. You can check out my catalog listing along with audio links at videofuzzy.blogspot.com and past episodes of this podcast at iTunes and videofuzzy.libsyn.com. Feedback is always appreciated. You can contact me through my blog or podcast sites or through my Video Fuzzy page on Facebook. For Video Fuzzy, I'm Terry J. Amon. Happy viewing.
It might be amazing, it might just be scuzzy. We'll find out together on Video Fuzzy.